Well, this next one I'm going to turn to you exclusively. The Ravens on Christmas, they were the Grinch for you. They came in and they stole the win and they stole Christmas. They claimed the title of the best in the NFL currently. Obviously, that might be disputed by this upcoming week of football. But take us through what happened. What's going on with the Ravens? What's going on with the Niners? Are we doom and gloom? Or are we feeling all right?
I feel great. I looked at the discourse this week on this team, and a lot of people have some big question marks. I guess it seemed like, but I think anytime that you line up two evenly matched teams, and one team turns the ball over 5 times and the other team doesn't, we know how that goes. Um, Brock Purdy made a bad throw in the end zone. He targeted the middle of the field a little bit too much. Now the thing is that's what the Niners like to do: the deep ends, the deep crossers, things like that. The Ravens have probably the second best linebacker situation in the league behind the Fred Warner and Dre Greenlaw. With
Absolutely.
oh man, I can't believe I just
Roquan.
blanked on it. And Queen.
Roquan Smith. Yep. Patrick Queen.
So we want to target the middle of the field. They take that away and kind of figured it out. And then, that play, the second interception where the defensive lineman gets up and bats the ball and there happens to be somebody back there. Like that play happens 30 times a week in the NFL and there's never anyone to pick that off. So that was good. The next pick, he hits George Kittle straight in the chest and it pops up in the air. That sucks, but it happens in the NFL. And then the last
Trash
pick,
can.
the last pick, the player's wide open on the slant, and I'm not going to sit here and tell you that we had our 3 backup guys on the offensive line because the game was kind of already out of hand at that point. But the right tackle gets blown up and his arm gets hit and he throws a pick there. So honestly, I'm not worried about Brock Purdy at all. I'm not worried about the 49ers offense at all. We outgained them all over the place. Yards per pass, overall yards, all that stuff. And every time they got the damn ball, they were already on our side of the field. So I did question a little bit what the offense was doing. I don't think that Kyle was quote unquote in his bag this week. And if he came out here on our podcast and told us that was by design, it wouldn't surprise me. The defensive scheme, I've criticized Wilkes a lot this year. He's came on better. We ran the same defense we ran with Jalen. We did not want our edge rushers to get up the field. We were not trying to over rush the protection. We did not want to give Lamar any type of lanes to run. And for the most part, we did pretty good. Now, that leads to less sacks. And then on the one play where Lamar leaks out and goes for 40 or 50, Chase Young did his Chase Young thing, which is what the Commanders have talked about, is sometimes he just doesn't do what he's supposed to do and he kind of gets into it for himself and he tries to gets a sack and he screws up his lane and Lamar leaks out and goes for yards. And that's why, to be honest with you, if you watch a lot of Niners this year, you've seen a lot of Randy Gregory, you've seen a lot of Cleveland Farrell and not a ton of Chase Young because the dude needs to learn that it's a team game, not all about himself. But it's honestly, it was very disappointing because it was Christmas. I can't sit here and tell you that I didn't bet against the 49ers on that game because, to be honest with you, the game doesn't matter. It didn't matter. We beat the Rams, the Commanders this week, who are turning to their backup quarterback, Jacoby Brissett. And then we have the Rams the last week of the year, which might be a big game because the Rams might be in a win and go to the playoffs or lose and go home situation. But we've beat the Rams for like 6 straight years now. We wrap those games up and we have the number 1 seed. So coming into a game that wasn't super important for seeding, we didn't want to show our hand, and the defensive scheme was a lot of, hey, let's be relaxed against Lamar. And then 3 picks that were 50-50 balls that if we played them this week might go our way. And, the 49ers moved the ball down the field. It just happened to be those messed up plays. And I was so disgusted with some of the Sam Darnold. We need to start Sam Darnold. I'm like, did you guys watch? You guys didn't watch what I watched, obviously. Like, Sam Darnold throws that ball so damn hard on a 3-yard crosser that balls are popping up to the air all over the place. Like, I like Sam Darnold. I think he's an excellent backup. I love the fact that if Brock Purdy went down in the playoffs, I'd think to myself, you know what? We could still win this game. This isn't Josh Johnson, and it's not Brock Purdy with a broken elbow. We can win this game. But to think that coming into the league, the week last week, he was going to win the MVP, which is funny because who's it now? Lamar. Lamar's thrown 24 touchdowns this year. Christian McCaffrey second in odds. I don't see them giving it to a running back, especially since I saw somebody posted the other day talking about LaDainian Tomlinson and how he had seasons that were far and away better than Christian McCaffrey's, and he never got consideration for the MVP. I think it's probably Lamar, but maybe Lamar comes out and lays an egg on this Sunday against the Dolphins, and then we're all sitting there wondering, like, is it Raheem Mostert? What if Raheem goes for 200 yards and 3 touchdowns? I don't know. Maybe there is no MVP this year, all because of the top level quarterbacks not playing well. So,
and I think so. A couple of things there. One, every single time you open up the Instagram comments, or I'm sure it's no different when you open up Twitter's Twitter at all, or X, whatever you want to call it. I'm sure it's no different. But every single chance people get, it's, oh, well, Brock was never the MVP. Give it to Christian McCaffrey. Give it to Christian. I'm sorry, but I get it. He's closing on 2,000 scrimmage yards, but 1,300 rushing yards doesn't do it. 1,400, it doesn't do it for me, right? Derrick Henry goes for 2,000. Yes, I know it's a high usage type season, but he goes for 2,000. You don't even consider him. He doesn't get a single MVP vote that season. I'm not giving it to Christian McCaffrey. I'm not even considering Christian McCaffrey at that point. I think the discussion and the discourse around Brock is pretty gross. You would think that this man is Tom Brady with how much people want him to be a supervillain when he's not. He's just Mr. Irrelevant coming in for his first full season, and people are already against this man. They do not want to see the best story in the NFL currently succeed at all. They are betting against this man. Brock is great. Cam, shut the hell up. Micah, shut the hell up. You don't know what you're talking about. Both you guys, tune it out. Okay. All that is ridiculous. I think Debo standing with his quarterback and blasting both Micah, which I love Micah Parsons, but come on, bro, knock it off. But standing with his quarterback against Micah Parsons, against Cam Newton, we've already talked about Cam Newton's comments. Go check it out on YouTube or TikTok. It's ridiculous. It's gross, and I don't support it. Right now, Lamar Jackson is the MVP. And if he goes out and has even I think a half decent game against Miami, or if they just win, I think that kind of locks it up officially. Because if they win and they lock up that number 1 seed, he's not playing week 18, and that kind of locks up the MVP, and he gets the MVP, and they can push it aside. Now, what's a little bit more exciting is who's the offensive player of the year. It's Christian McCaffrey. Are we talking about Tyreek Hill? I think that's a little bit more exciting. Defensive player of the year is pretty exciting this year. Yeah, I think there's a lot of players and a lot of awards that can kind of go a bunch of different ways. Comeback player of the year, which we should talk about with maybe a little bit with Joe Flacco since he's second odds. Coach of the year, offensive player, defensive player, all that stuff is really fun this year because it's kind of just up in the air. There's not like a solidified, this guy is going to get it. MVP, again, if the Ravens win next week, even if Lamar doesn't have a great game, he has a half decent game, I think that locks it, solidifies it again because he's not going to play week 18 most likely. I think that kind of solidifies the MVP at that point.
I think so. That's why the NFL is king is the parity. I think the NFL would tell you that this season in particular, you got the two of your biggest brands in the 49ers and Cowboys just slogging it out. They're at the top. The Chiefs with the poster boy of the league, they're still in contention, but there's a lot of parity over there. I think it's a great year for the NFL in terms of all this stuff. I love the fact that we're not like, oh yeah, Aaron Rodgers is the MVP by week 14. I love that every week the betting odds change. I think it's awesome. I don't know why people hate on it so much. I don't understand why people hate Brock, to be honest with you. The kids on Instagram this week for his birthday making up handshakes with his wife on Instagram. And the thing about Micah, he was already on his podcast this year praising Brock. And then you're going to make comments about the fact that they're down 21 and they're not hucking the ball deep when they've got 3 backups on the offensive line. The game is out of reach. It doesn't really matter. And why are we going to do 7-step drops against, the weakness of our team is the offensive line. Why we're going to go into 7. I will tell you the thing about Kyle is he doesn't even have 7-step drops he doesn't even have plays for that. The statistic, the Kyle Shanahan is like 0 for 33 when losing by 7 in the fourth quarter. His offense isn't built for that. Is that a problem? Probably. But he's not going to look at this game and say, you know what, we should install plays that are going to help us if we ever arise in this situation. He's going to say, you know what, if 3 of those 50-50 balls don't go their way, we probably win that game. You know, when you make a pass and it's batted and it lands in the defender's lap, or you put the ball on the chest of your all-pro tight end and he pops it in the air, or your third string right tackle, Trent Williams goes out of the game. We put his backup in. His backup gets a concussion immediately. So then we take our right guard, who's been splitting snaps all season, put him at left tackle, and then some guy named Ben Barch. I don't even know who Ben Barch is. I couldn't even. If you had said, Drew, I'll give you $1 million if you name the tackle or the swing tackle or the guard that's active for this game, I would have told you that I'm not a millionaire because I don't know who the hell that guy is. And I'm a diehard 49ers fan. I'm a diehard NFL fan. And I had no idea who that guy was. And you're like, oh, yeah, let's go 7-step drop and huck it deep. No, that's not how it works. Get that kid massacred on a game that realistically doesn't matter. Everybody wants the 1 seed, but nobody's afraid of going to Philadelphia this year. We've already seen that game. We've already seen what happens. 49ers not afraid to go to Dallas. We've already done that. The 49ers are not afraid to go to Detroit. It didn't make sense at the time. It wasn't a win or go home game. And the comments this week are just, is Brock Patrick Mahomes? No. Is he Tom Brady? No. But he's a good kid. He runs the offense extremely well. And the 49ers are going to continue to win with him at quarterback. And I never felt that way about Jimmy. I never felt that way about Nick Mullins. I never felt that way about Colin Kaepernick. Every time those dudes threw the ball, I was like, oh. When Brock steps back and launches, I think to myself every single time, touchdown. And it's actually shocking to me when he throws an interception. Like, I'm like, oh, shit, Brock threw a pick. What are we doing? Like, it shocks me when he throws a pick because all he does is make good decisions. So people can hate if they want. Kid, 1 full season in the league. Like, let's everybody relax. We don't have to crown him next year as a Hall of Famer. And we don't have to hate on the kid. Just let him